Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the 13-1 Winnipeg Jets. And what a game. They defeated the Colorado Avalanche 1-0, the team that beat them in the playoffs last year. And Connor Hellebuyck wins the game with a 34 save shutout. Josh, that was a boring game. Josh, I got to tell you what. Josh, my buddy Josh from my class. I do this thing when I get stressed out where I touch like the inside of my neck to check my pulse. That was like the whole third period for me. And I think, when you're not invested, you can think like a 1-0 game pretty boring, really tough. And that one was, I would not say boring. Jesse Olenek is going, I'm not going to scream into the mic. Yeah! That's how he would say it. All right, so we're going to go into the game. Before we get started, I want to tell you why I think the Jets lost to the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs last year. I think they had a tough time defending off the rush. I think the top-end talent of the Colorado Avalanche ate them alive. And you know what? The Jets' defense, as poor as they played defensively, Connor Hellebuyck's numbers did not look like Connor Hellebuyck's numbers, even though the Winnipeg Jets were as bad defensively or even worse defensively as the regular season San Jose Sharks. They still... Connor Hellebuyck's numbers, like he puts himself on such a high pedestal that he was never going to allow the game again. Back to the lobby for you. It says the last period was stressful. And I'm like, yeah, again, I check my pulse when I'm stressed. And I was checking my pulse at many times throughout that period. And my heart was just going. But before we get in there, let me tell you about the flagship show of the Game Over Network. And that's Hyperdrive Hockey. All things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries, whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm an Apple Music guy or an Apple Podcast guy myself. So just head over there to the Hyperdrive Hockey page of the Game Over Network on YouTube, wherever you want to listen to your podcast. There may also be another segment and in there where we bring on Game Over hosts, and a little bird, not me, is going to tell you that someone from the Game Over Winnipeg network, probably me, might make an appearance on the podcast at some point. So make sure you're just listen to every episode. That's the finest way to make sure you're not missing the greatest Brendan Labarre content. Unless you're really not a fan of me, then I guess this message isn't for you either. Josh said I watch it as a hockey fan, not a Jets fan, but I can see how it was stressful. Yeah, it was like in the third, we're going to get to the third period. The amount of things that could have gone wrong seemed like they were going to go wrong. And it was just like at every moment you were just kind of screaming internally because you're like, oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. But then it was fine. And then here we go. And then it was fine again. Even for a low-scoring game, it was fairly exciting. Very fast period, much better than the Utah game. Yeah, I would say in terms of having a shutout loss. By the way, back-to-back shutout losses. Then it's kind of almost direct opposite, where the other one was a slugfest, and this one was a kind of more engaging game. I will also say, if you're watching and you're not in the chat, what are you doing? This is my show, but it's also your show. Make sure you're commenting so you can be a part of this. And Jesse says, okay, I'll listen to every episode. See, all you have to do is ask. And while you're here, why don't you like and subscribe to the Game Over Network? Again, we're just asking. It's free and easy, and it supports us here as a smaller market thing. Ken saying grinder. I'll figure out what that's to later. All right, so the game. We start this game, and this game was kind of like every game the Winnipeg Jets have played this season has been almost a measuring stick. As we kind of go on, and we kind of keep like going up with these teams, every time we go 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, none of them felt like they meant more than this game. Graham Lalonde says, I just hope both teams had fun. Graham, that doesn't matter right now. There were things at stake. This was like a legacy game. Like, how did this game affect LeBron's legacy? Anyways, we start this game, and again, the Lowry line starts just like he starts most Jets games. And one thing you kind of notice, some storylines coming in, is the Jets were by far the healthier team, and the Colorado Avalanche were much more depleted. We didn't know if Makar was going to play. Nichushkin, Landeskog, we know have been out for a bit. But then guys like Ross Colton, fantasy legend Ross Colton, Jonathan Drouin. I picked up Ross Colton in fantasy when he was on that top line. He was very good. Ross Colton, Jonathan Drouin, just all these guys that were fantastic, amazing for them, and a part of that attack that Colorado has. And then we are having guys like Ivan, the ultimate 2 first names guy, playing on the third line. Their fourth line was like the Google line of Wagner, Timonen, and Prishepkov, whatever his name is. And it's like I had to Google all these guys to find out who they were before the game. An avalanche? It was an avalanche. Yes, sir. And so we get into this game, and we're like, how are they going to handle this? What's the game plan going in? And it seemed like right off the hop, the Winnipeg Jets were going, okay, let's make this game as hard on the Avalanche defense as possible. So the first thing they did is they kind of go, the first thing that kind of happens is the Lowry line goes in, starts throwing some hits, does the Lowry line stuff, but you're like, okay, that line, we're used to it. But let's see how the other forwards, and then the Scheifele line comes out, and right at the beginning, they have a defensive zone faceoff, and they go attack Josh Manson. They knock the puck off his stick, go on a rush, and this has been kind of a theme for the Jets all season, is going out and just rushing the D on the PK and at 5-on-5, and they've gotten some really good chances from it, and that's what got them their goal today. The one goal, the only one we're going to talk about the entire night, because they attack the player, Josh Manson. They chip the puck forward, and then they go in there, make the 2-on-1 play, and Georgiev lets it in. And I hear in Colorado, they're calling this man Forgiev because he's just out there letting in goals all the time. The Colorado Avalanche are letting in 4.15 goals a game, and that is the worst in the National Hockey League. And you're kind of thinking like, okay, you know what? This is a game where the Winnipeg Jets, they'll be able to score their goals. They just have to worry about the defense. And how wrong we were, because there was no more goals scored for the rest of the night. You're just saying, my dog Bandit didn't think that McKinnon had that dog in him tonight. Well, I think Nathan McKinnon was excellent this game. He didn't get on the score sheet, but he was making me check my pulse the whole night. And then you kind of see this Winnipeg Jets team kind of keep on the attack, and they're kind of skating with these guys. And that's one of those things where the Winnipeg Jets were so just bad on the rush in the playoffs, and they come into this game and they are actively trying to engage in that style. They're having so many stretch passes. They had one to Kyle Connor, 2 of them in the first period, and they were really trying to stretch the ice. Kapari had a really good rush chance, and they were going from the defensive zone, just skipping the neutral zone altogether and getting into the other end. And what a way to keep on attacking and sticking on the defense. There was a moment 6 minutes into the game where Cale Makar went back into his own zone, and usually you're kind of expecting a change there. When Cale Makar has the puck, usually he's going to kind of, have a great time, take a look around, see his options. But Mark Scheifele was right on him, making his life difficult, making him test his injury-plagued self. And he goes on him and he makes a turnover. And what a little turnover it was, because it kind of led to another chance, and just being on the D. That's some playoff hockey. That's that forecheck we're coming to get used to. There was that game the other night. I believe it was might have been the Utah game. I think it was the game on Sunday, actually, where they go and they're just attacking the defense, and they get all 3 of their goals from it. And that's something that's starting to become a theme that's not just in the defensive zone, but in the offensive zone as well. And then with that, that's pretty much the first. We have some saves, but we're saving Hellebuck for later. We're going to give him his little kind of his time in the sun here. So we get into the second, and speaking of Hellebuck, his job gets a whole lot harder. The Colorado Avalanche start coming out to play. They are having some more offensive chances, some more rush chances, and then a lot more when that McKinnon line and the Makar pairing are on the ice together. They're going to have a cycle. They're going to have a time where they are going out there and they're going and getting those shots. And so with that, the Winnipeg Jets they were kind of more in the shell, and they were still playing pretty good. It was kind of back and forth. And you get into that game, and with that, the Jets needed some people to kind of stand up. And the one guy that you saw really stand up was Neil Pionk. Whenever the Colorado Avalanche would come down their left, Pionk's right side of the ice, he was there, and he would kind of just let them come at him a little bit. And then he would strip the puck from them, make a play. And there was sometimes you're like, I don't know how he got that. But thank the hockey gods that he did, because he was just having a great old time defending against the rush in that game. It was kind of like, I don't know what tape they watched, if it was from the playoffs or the Avalanche earlier this season, but the Winnipeg Jets were really responding on the rush, which was their greatest weakness in the Avalanche series that year. And then you have the power play, where which the power play has been so good all season, and you were really worried about the Avalanche's power play, because as good of a power play the Jets have been coming to this game at 44.4%, which is first in the league. The Avalanche had the second best power play, and they were coming in with a power play of about 37%. And with that, you're just worried about, like, okay, if we get into those penalty games, is it just going to be the Winnipeg Jets doing is it going to be the Winnipeg Jets top end guys against their top end guys, and like Makar, Rantanen, McKinnon, they are going to have the edge there. And moving on, we get into the third period, and this was like the Winnipeg Jets are holding on to dear life. They are just have the other guys in there, and Jesse like said, someone in my friend's fantasy league benched Connor Hellebuyck tonight. That is just a little silly. I would never do that. Ty Dilello says 13-1. Let's go. My Game Over Winnipeg co-host here. Hello, Ty. Welcome to the stream for the 13-1 Winnipeg Jets. And you get in the third period, and the Winnipeg Jets are just hanging on. It's like if you were on, what are those things in a merry-go-round, or those things, in a play structure that you just kind of spin and you jump on? It's like the Winnipeg Jets were on there, but it was just increasing in velocity, and no one was stopping it. They were hanging on for dear life. They did not want to go anywhere. And the Winnipeg Jets, I think Scott Billick or Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press, they kind of go in there, and they're like, it was Scott Billick, Winnipeg's son. I don't recall another game this season where the Winnipeg Jets have hung on for dear life. And it was like, we are having the most adversity we have seen. By the way, if you are a Winnipeg Jets fan, follow me on Twitter. Also, like this video and make sure that like you're tweeting during the game. We'll get you on here. And as long as I see them, we'll get them in here. And the Winnipeg Jets are just holding on. And Scott Arniel is like, okay, we have to change some things up. So we have some line switches. We have Ehlers going back on the top line. It's going to be Connor Velarde and Perfetti. Not Connor Velarde, Perfetti. Connor Vladimir Nemestikov and Perfetti. And then that third line's always going to stay the same. The fourth line was kind of staying the same, but they would move guys up. There was some other plays where Appleton would get on there with Ehlers, where it was Ehlers and Scheifele and Iafallo together. Just trying to get different looks, trying to escape this onslaught that the Colorado Avalanche were just giving them. And there was some really good plays that came out of that. There was a 2-on-1 where Vladdy just couldn't get it to Kyle Connor. There was a 2-on-0 where it wasn't really 2-on-0. It was more like just in the crease. Appleton had the puck. Across crease to Ehlers. You thought that was going to be the icing on the cake in the game. No chance. It was like on the goal line. Ehlers goes for another jab at it, and he just gets pummeled by the Colorado Avalanche defense there. And then we were having some times where we're thinking, okay, when is this going to end? When are things going real bad? And there was some times like Logan Stanley decided to not take an extra step or two, and he iced the puck. And we have a little thing on the show right now where we're being nice to Logan Stanley. We don't want to judge him too much on some of his hockey plays per se, but we would want him to be that mean guy that he was. And he was pretty mean today, and which I really appreciated. But he takes that. He doesn't take those extra steps, and he ends up icing the puck. And someone named Brendan Labarre said, we're being nice to Logan. And I forgot the apostrophe. So if you want to take that as we are being nice to Logan, or past tense as we're being nice to Logan, take it as you will. It was kind of stressful there when Logan Stanley decided to ice it. And then we're back in our zone. We're taking more pummeling. They're coming at us. They're winning the faceoff, and we're having a tough go keeping up with the Colorado Avalanche. So we're holding on. And then more bad things happen. Who was it? There was a play where Joshua Morrissey takes a penalty, and that's like, if anyone on the team was going to take a penalty besides Connor Hellebuyck, you did not want it to be Josh Morrissey. And then you go on there and you have Barron going for the open net. and it knocks off a stick and it misses. And every single time when these things happen, you're like, okay, this is where it all falls apart. We've had so many Jets teams where they look good, like the 2019 team, where they were basically as good as the 2018 team, the one that played against Vegas in the third round. But until that moment, and then the 2019 team, about in January, just every time they had a lead, they would fall apart and just lose it. And so that's kind of ingrained in us as Jets fans, is we're just thinking, when does the collapse, when does the house of cards kind of fall down? And it didn't. And I think that there's a play earlier in the game where Dylan Sandberg, he had a little bit of a tougher time off of a face-off. And I was trying to think to myself, we'll save that for later. But we had this big play with Rasmus Kupari, and he comes in, and there's 3 seconds left, and you can see Rantanen kind of over on the one-timer side. And Kupari just wins the face-off, and the game's over. And it was just like a huge sigh of relief for everyone involved, except the Colorado Avalanche. But the whole kind of city of Winnipeg, the province of Manitoba, collectively exhaled, and the Winnipeg Jets beat the Colorado Avalanche with a 34 save shutout from Connor Hellebuyck. Now, before we get in the second, we're going to talk about Connor Hellebuyck. We have to talk about how good Neil Pionk played. We want to talk about some of the tenacity the Jets played with tonight. We'll do a little bit on faceoffs as well. But first of all, let me tell you about the Game Over Network, which is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find our Patreon page. And we're also working on a page through LaRouque, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. Maybe like yourself. Maybe you want to join me. Maybe you're like, Brendan, you are full of smoke. I can do a much better job than you. Be my guest. Do it. If you have any ideas for it you'd like as giveaways for these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, and our Discord server. So first of all, let's talk about faceoffs. So faceoffs, I think in hockey, they can be overrated or underrated depending, I think, on how much you value them. And for the Winnipeg Jets, they definitely do value them. So far this season, Kupari's been in the faceoff in the lineup almost like strictly because he's right-handed centerman. They really value having him, and there's times where he's on that third line just for a shift instead of Appleton, just so we can take that draw. If they had David Gustafsson, they would only have one right-handed centerman in Scheifele. And Gabriel Velarde, he can take those faceoffs, but they choose to kind of restrict him from going out there just to kind of do that. And I think there's two very interesting faceoff plays in this game. The first one was in the first period where Dylan Sandberg, he's behind the net. They win it back to him. It's already 1-0 at this point. And Dylan Sandberg just kind of makes a soft pass back to Neil Pionk, but it gets intercepted by Nathan MacKinnon. And I think it comes from this idea that, we're gonna make this the second period. It comes from this idea that, a face-off win's a face-off win and you get the possession. But a lot of the times, what's more important than actually winning the face-off, like drawing it back, is what happens in the 5 to 7 seconds after the puck is dropped. And it was in this book, Take Your Eye Off the Puck, How to Watch Hockey by Knowing Where to Look by Greg Wyshynski, where he talked about Ryan Getzlaf. And Ryan Getzlaf, he sometimes just let the other team win the puck so he could go in forecheck. And he would get the puck back that way, and it was kind of a set play. And it seemed like that's almost what Nathan MacKinnon did there on that play, where he just kind of, he was trying to win the puck, but he had a plan. He went in after it and just disrupted that play, and that's what led to the forechecking. It was Rantanen or Lehkonen on the side, and he got it back to MacKinnon in front of the net, and he forced Connor Hellebuyck to make a huge save, which was then made by Neil Pionk. And then what also on the flip side of that, you have Rasmus Kupari at the end of the game with 3 seconds left, where they win the faceoff and it just ends the game. So it's really situational for faceoffs. And I think with the Winnipeg Jets is they were really focused when they got Sean Monahan last year on making sure that they had that faceoff guy. And you can tell like from both sides of the coin whether you're really pro faceoffs or like anti faceoffs as a important stat. You can really see just based on that one play how a hockey team might value them and where they kind of want to look when they're looking for the yearly second line center that they get at the trade deadline. Because Vladimir Nemestikov, as much as we love him, as much as he's so good at a lot of things, He's not a great face-off guy, and when Sean Monahan got here last year, it was such a revelation. What else? Connor Hellebuyck, 34 save shutout. How much can you say about this man? This man, when they drafted him, they were actually scouting the other goalie. The best Connor Hellebuyck stat of all time is in college. He had many losses as he did shutout. He was like a 5th-round pick in 2012. And it was just like, even coming up through the organization, it almost felt like Eric Comrie was the superior prospect just because of his athleticism. And tonight he had so many stellar saves. He had that one in the first off that Nathan MacKinnon play we just talked about. We had just the whole third period of him getting just ambushed with shots, just ambushed with all these chances, just this movement in the offensive zone that no one really ever recovered from. And even going in like that whole period, just onslaught. But Connor Hellebuyck, just with his tracking and just letting the puck hit him, and the Winnipeg Jets were so good tonight around their net at just forcing the puck out, chipping it down the ice when they had the opportunities. Connor Hellebuyck is just he's the best goaltender in the world. I'll say it every time. And he just gives you such a calming feeling. And even when we're checking our pulse, even when we feel like the world's going to end, when Logan Stanley ices the puck or Josh Morey takes a penalty, Connor Hellebuyck just shows us why he is the best goaltender in the world. And you have one of the things, we do like to pull tweets, mostly from Jets fans here. But something I was looking at today on Twitter today is I was looking at Colorado Avalanche tweets as well. And so when we look at like what are people saying about the Colorado Avalanche, here's some tweets from guys from Colorado. Just unreal Hellebuyck. Hellebuyck has a little bit off at times, but has stonewalled the Avs up to this point. Hellebuyck made 4 straight saves on Wagner at point blank range. Great fundamentals from the goalie. And just one of my favorite tweets was just a quick, someone tell Connor Hellebuyck that this is a playoff game. And just this reputation he has. I think, who is it? Shesterkin's trying to get the most money in the league. Connor Hellebuyck is like the worst thing in the world for the goalie unions at this point, because he took 8.5 for those 7 years. And once again, we have to thank the Vegas Golden Knights for making this league not value goaltending. So that summer where he was going to be a UFA in the next year, got him at a discount price. No one wanted to trade for him. What a lovely time to be a fan. And we have some tweets from some Winnipeg Jets people as well. Mike McIntyre, Winnipeg Free Press, with a great sequence, making at least 3 stops during the avalanche of Colorado chances. What a pun. What a veteran. And then Ava saying, I would ride into battle for Connor Hellebuyck. And I think most Winnipeg Jets fans would agree with that point. And then from there, we have had last episode of Game Over Winnipeg after the Utah game, I talked about the players who you could notice were playing from the Tampa Bay Lightning. The players who they knew how to cheat, they knew how to play with edge, and you really saw it tonight, especially with Nathan MacKinnon, where when he decided he wanted the puck, he did not care about your well-being. He would grab you by the collar, he would move, he'd step in front of you with his elbow, and he would make sure that if anyone on this planet was getting that hockey puck in that hockey rink in this hockey game, it was him. And so there were some players that really came to play, really stepped up the edge of their game, and really just made sure that in this game that felt like a playoff game, they were playing a playoff style. And some really good players for that. And then we have, Kyrie Newman's best defensive game for Pionk, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. We got to get to Pionk. Pionk was unbelievable tonight. And with that kind of physical game, you saw guys like Nino Niederreiter. People are following this guy into battle. Adam Lowry, who just never takes a night off. Even Nikolai Ehlers was getting into it when he jabbed at the goalie. When he was in the corner, gives the guy an extra little shot, and then the guy goes at him, and then Logan Stanley comes to defend him. Logan Stanley just doing his job. That's what we want out of you, man. And then we have Logan Stanley, throwing a big hit. Colorado Avalanche fan guy didn't look at the bio. Should look at the bio. That's bad journalism. But TJ Tynan just got smoked by Logan Stanley. That was in the first period. And that was just another thing that set the game. And what a week for Logan Stanley coming off that Tampa game, scoring that goal. Or did he score the goal in that game? I believe so. And what a great time for those guys to get in there and just play with the tenacity you need to win the playoffs. And just starting that in November. And we're going to have this team. And since we've had such a great start, this 13-1 start, we got to start talking about the playoffs now. They got to start developing these habits. And it's really great that it started so early in the season. And they can kind of start this pace or start this kind of stretch of the mid season where they can just work on things. And if you lose a game here or there, it's not the end of the world because you're not really fighting for your playoff lives just yet. You still got to kind of maintain a certain pace, but you're 12 games above 500, not even the silly Bettman 500. You're in there, and you just kind of need to play at a 500 pace for the rest of the way, and you're in. Go 45 and not 45, but like 97 or 47. Get 97 points. Get like 98 points. Get 110 points. Which going 500, you're gonna do it. Especially if you get some of those greasy Bettman points. So maybe not 500, maybe like 600. But you're pretty much a lock for the playoffs in a league where every game is worth 2 points unless there's the magical fairy point that happens when you're tied at the end. So just make sure you're practicing those things. You're gonna win games. Make sure that you're practicing and leading up to the playoff style that you need to be playing. Now we're going to get to Neil Pionk. This might be the best game Neil Pionk has played as a Winnipeg Jet. On the rush, getting attacked, he was unreal. He was making big plays at the defensive blue line. He was making pretty good plays in the offensive zone, but especially defensively. Like there was a time where they were on the rush. Casey Middlestad was trying to get him to move. It was a 3-on-2. And Neil Pionk just sticks with him, make sure that doesn't go anywhere, knocks the puck off his stick, gets it out. There was times when he was making like that McKinnon chance in the first off the Dylan Sandberg turnover. And Neil Pionk was the guy to swat the puck away. It was just all night. It was relentless. And you have this guy who, you get him that Neil Pionk in that Jacob Trouba trade, and he has his ups and downs. But this is a guy who is really this season taking another step and if he's just doing it because he's getting a contract at the end of the year, that's fine, man. We'll just reap the benefit of that. And it's so nice that you have that second pair that really stepped up big, that really kind of embodied just another layer of security, because you don't want for that Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello pair to be the only pair that you can rely on defensively. The pair with Logan Stanley, you're going to have to shelter a little bit, even though Colin Miller has been such a revelation for this team. And so you really just want to have that second layer of security. And that's what Neil Pionk has given them tonight. It was just so fun to watch him tonight because he just was so relentless in just not letting the Avalanche score. And I feel like with Neil Pionk too, you look back to that Edmonton series where they beat them in 4. A huge part of that was because Neil Pionk was so engaged in the game. And when he gets kind of a little bit more physical and he gets involved with the play like that, there's just not a lot of people like, I'm not going to say that there's not a lot of defensemen better than Neil Pionk, but he becomes not just the empty calorie offensive defenseman, but such a crucial part to this team. And and on top of all of that, it's such another layer of offense. He's like 3rd in the league in scoring by a defenseman this year. And the fact that we got, half an hour into this live stream and we haven't talked about him, and he's been a big topic, and we haven't talked about his offensive output. It's just showing like how kind of rounded his game's been so far this season. And you absolutely just love to see it. And going back, just one more thing I want to talk about our tenacity. I think one of my favorite tweets from a Colorado Avalanche other person tonight was when we're talking about was that there's a power play early. Vladimir Nemestikov just kind of healed the puck. It goes past. And then Nemestikov says, and then Eric says, Nemestikov just absolutely speared Georgiev right in the groin area. And I didn't catch that. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But, if you have a reputation as a little bit of a dirtier team, the Tampa Bay Lightning have it, Bruins have it, the Florida Panthers have it, you're probably doing something right. Jesse says, I have Pionk on my fantasy team. Neil Pionk is just an amazing fantasy player, especially this year. He hits, he blocks, he does all the things you want. And that second power play unit, they're getting so much mileage out of that. And before we go into the third period, where I get to talk about whatever I want, whatever topic I want to talk to you about the Game On show at the Game Over Network. And you see us at Game Over, we have you after the game. We're here, we kind of debrief everything. But whatever the opposite of that, the pre-brief, I think it's just briefing, is the Game On show on the Game Over Network. And that's hosted by Graham. It's just 10 minutes a day, and it covers all the ongoing stories in the NHL and the NHL and the hockey world in general. And so Graham just, for 10 minutes a day, you just get everything you want. It's like a little snack. You ever just have like the little, Halloween was recently. It's not a huge hour podcast. It's more like those little Kit Kats. If you snap them or you just pop them in your mouth, it's just so digestible. You can grab just a little sweet treat. Take it on your coffee break. It's 10 minutes. It doesn't take too long. And you know what? You get to develop a relationship with him. You get a parasocial relationship. You just kind of get to know him a little bit. Just his personality is a great guy. Check out the Game On show at the Game Over Network. And you can just find that on our main page or wherever podcasts are. So we've been talking about Hellebuyck. We've talked about the tenacity of this team. I think I've gone this whole show, and I was going to talk about earlier, I had some stuff prepared on some prospects that the Jets have coming up, because we haven't really talked about the prospects. We're about to get into who are the Jets can get the deadline, because they always do add when Kevin Cheveldayoff thinks that they have a chance. But I think today, going 13-1, I think we should talk about Scott Arniel and what he's been to this team. Now, Scott Arniel, I was a little skeptical on him being the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. And I think that's because it just kind of seemed like a shallow search. It was like, okay, who do we have that was either a former Winnipeg Jet, is already in the Winnipeg Jets organization, or has a postal code in Manitoba? They went out and interviewed like Dean Evison, who is from Flin Flon. Shout out to Flin Flon Bombers. Great jersey. And they go out and they interview him. They're like, you know what? Why would we do that? We have Scott Arniel at home. And so it just felt like they really didn't do too much of a search. And you look back at his record, while he did have those great stretches as the interim head coaching bonus was out, his head coaching record was last in 2010 to 2011, the 12 season, with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And in that stretch, he went 45, 60, and 18. Now you might be saying, hey, Brendan, come here. That was the 2010 to 2012 Columbus Blue Jackets. That's really not fair. But you know what? It's the NHL. And I think everything's kind of fair. We've seen some teams like that, like the 2013 Toronto Maple Leafs that just, you can get hot, you can kind of get things going. Anything's possible when you're playing a sport with a rubber disc on a sheet of ice where you're playing blades, where you're wearing blades on your feet. And so you have this guy who's really, while he has had some nice stretches and you might want to see more, he really hasn't proven anything. But he comes in, the first thing he does is he hires Marty Johnson to run the power play. That power play, while it went 0 for 2 today, they are first in the National Hockey League. They came into this game at 44.4%. And that's going to come down. We got prepared for that to come down. But that's absolutely incredible. You come in and you see the adjustments he's making. One thing that you saw today is they were making a lot of stretch passes to try and get behind the Jets D, or the Avalanche D. That's something they were not doing at the beginning of the season. And you have that kind of these ongoing adjustments. And it felt like they saw the Seattle Kraken do it, and they were like, okay, that's something that we can do. Because the Kraken, I don't know if they're the fastest team like with their feet, but they played fast because they moved the puck quick. They got it, like they pushed the defense back, and that kind of got them easier breakouts later on, because the Winnipeg Jets had to make an adjustment to be like, okay, we have to hang back a little bit because Jordan Eberle or Jared McCann's going to be way back there, and we got to kind of make sure that those guys are in check because we don't want free breakaways. And so the Scott Arniel kind of took that and implemented that into the Winnipeg Jets game. And that was a huge part of their game, especially at the beginning of this one, where they were able to take advantage of parts of the Colorado Avalanche defense, and it really helped them keep the pressure on. You saw today, the one in the third period, Scott Arniel has not had to make a lot of line adjustments, and he's giving these guys a lot of leeway to keeping on with the guys that they're kind of with. You see that first line through that first, especially first 10 games of the season, they were having a tougher time defensively. And with that, there was some people in the Twitter sphere, like myself, who were like, okay, is that sustainable? Or should they break it up? But Scott Arniel, after that loss, he kept them together for Detroit. And they go out and they have that amazing game where Kyle Connor had just some wonderful plays. Velarde scored as well. And it was really a testament to, okay, I trust you. we're go out there and we're going to improve you as a unit together. And it was just that belief that he has with them. And with the kind of that, sticking with that belief, Dylan DeMello, another guy who had a little tougher start to the season, he stuck him with Josh Morrissey the whole time. And especially when Colin Miller was playing as well as he has this season, he never once was tempted to flip those guys. And you saw today where he's making it, while he does like to keep his guys together, especially when they are a 13-1 hockey team. I'm going to say that as many times as I possibly can. He goes into that third period and he's like, okay, things are not going well. We really need to kind of start flipping guys around. And there was a whole lot of line combinations going out there. There was Ehlers, Scheifele, Iafallo. There was just the normal Connor Ehlers flip. There was a time where, again, Mason Appleton passed the puck to Nikolai Ehlers. Those two are rarely out together, especially since Nikolai Ehlers plays a lot of right wing. But it was the right adjustments, and it really just, even if they didn't score any goals at 5-on-5 after, or score any goals at all after, it was those line adjustments that got the Jets out of the zone and were able to give Connor Hellebuyck a breather, because it seemed like the Nathan McKinnons and Cale Makars and all the Colorado Avalanche were not taking their foot off the gas, and the Winnipeg Jets just needed to give Connor Hellebuyck that time to just collect himself and be able to just rebound for the next save. And then with the Winnipeg Jets, they took one penalty tonight. And I think this is a great time to tell you that our next segment is the overtime segment. That's going to be coming up real soon. So if you have any questions for me, anything you want to answer about the Jets, about anything really, pretty much anything's on the table, just throw it in the chat, because I'm going to be starting these after a little segment or after just a little thing about the Jets discipline this season. So start putting your questions into the chat, and I will just, keep on keeping on. So with the Winnipeg Jets too, they just seem to be unbelievably disciplined. And, we showed that little reputation thing on them starting to be like, okay, Vladimir Nemeskov poked Georgiev in the groin. But, overall, coming to the season, before they went into the Tampa Bay game, they were the least penalized team in the NHL. They were just averaging about 4.1 penalty minutes a game. And even now, coming into this game, they were about 6.1. They're really shooting up there now. But that's still good for the fourth best in the least amount of penalty minutes in the NHL. And that comes with just a lot of penalties in the NHL come from you not skating, you not knowing where to be, you being out of position. And it's kind of a real testament to the Winnipeg Jets are in position a lot of the time. And because of that, they're always in the right place. And when they have to make defensive plays, they're not reaching with their sticks. They're not tripping guys. They're not hooking. And they're not also on the back check hooking and slashing and tripping guys to try and make up for their mistakes. And that's a coaching thing. It's 100% a coaching thing. So it's just one of those things where it's super nice to see this Winnipeg Jets team come together and just not have to worry about being on the penalty kill, because the penalty kill might be the worst part of their game, and they're 16th. They're above league average. And it's kind of incredible just how all these things have come together. And I think when you're 13-1, all your numbers are going to look good. But, you're 13-1 for a reason. And the Winnipeg Jets have a lot of them right now. And a huge part of that has been Scott Arniel. And I'm not just saying that because my dad sold him a boat one time, and I got a bunch of free Washington Capitals merchandise because he just got a hat and he got a shirt, and I wore it around all the time. And back when he was coaching the Capitals. And while I do like free stuff, this is not a sponsored segment. Anyways, again, we are going to go to the overtime segment, part of the show real soon. This is the part of the show where I answer any questions. So make sure that you are typing in whatever you want to know while I tell you about our Game Over Network merch. So what better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over apparel's line has dropped. Let me show you some. We got the mug. Again, I think I tell people every single show, this mug, where's my hand? This mug, I got like 5 of them on the way. If you are one of my loved ones and you think you're not getting one of these mugs, then you are just a fibber. You're fibbing to yourself. Check them out in the QR code. We also have this hoodie. Also got one of these on the way. Hopefully you'll see it on Saturday's game. It's pretty sweet, if I might say so myself. These are designed by Brady Chalice of Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on the stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. So, well, with that in mind, let's head over to the overtime period. I'm going to keep the QR code up on the screen. If we have any questions, we'll answer them. And also, yeah, that sounds great. So if you have any questions, we'll just kind of wait. And then if not, we'll just wrap up the show. I think it's been a good one. We had a lot of fun today. That hopefully our heartbeat is kind of lower. Mine's pretty regular. And you know what? What a time to be alive. 13-1. All right. I'm going to start wrapping up the show because these are usually when the questions come. My name is Brendan Labarre. This has been the Game Over Network. Make sure, especially if you've gotten this far, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the Game Over Network. Winnipeg, we got all the Canadian markets. We had the main channel, especially Game Over Winnipeg and the main channel, just so you can get the Game On show as well. This has been a great show. We have gone over the Winnipeg Jets, the kind of their playoff woes and how things have gone. Once again, I'm Brendan Labarre. You find me on my socials. I'm OJetsO on Twitter, and make sure that you follow me. I'll definitely follow you back. If you have any tweets during the game, there's a high chance that they will be in the next Game Over Winnipeg. So this has been Brendan Labarre, and I will see you guys on Saturday. It will be like a 4:45 stream, 2 hours after right after puck drop, and it will be like about, I believe the Bomber game's at 5:30. So it's like, whoa, what a perfect amount of time, if you have to put something on your TV between the Jets game and the Bomber game, why not my face? It's so great because even if you mute me, you're still supporting the Game Over Network. What an idea. What else are you going to put on? Who knows? You're going to watch like some Saskatchewan Roughriders pregame. You want to see that green? No chance. Anyways, good night, Winnipeg. Again, I'm Brendan Labarre, and this has been Game Over Winnipeg.